What does that mean, a Socratic way of life? We're not going to know what that means.
Right. So the unexamined life is worth living. So this is a Socratic quote. He says this at his trial, and they basically say to him, stop doing philosophy, we'll let you go. And he said, or if not, we'll kill you, right?
Oh, wow.
And he says, well, the unexamined life is not worth living. I'd rather die. And so Socrates is very, very interesting. He has two sort of influences. One influence, he's influenced by the first scientists that are emerging in ancient Greece. He takes a look at the natural science, and it's a breakthrough. Like, as opposed to a mythological way of thinking, these early thinkers are using observation and reason to try and understand the world. He thinks that's powerful, but he finds that and this is relevant for us, right? He finds that the scientific information isn't existentially relevant. It doesn't lead to personal transformation. It doesn't tell him how to become a better person.
So it gives him a lot of information and it makes him understand things, but it's not helping him as a person, as in his soul.
And you see, and that's how a lot of people feel about our scientific worldview. We have a scientific worldview that explains everything except how we generate science and how we how we should live meaningful lives within that worldview. So Socrates says that's not good enough. The truth seeking is good, but it's not giving me any relevance. And then there's the sophists, and that literally means sort of the wise guys. And these are the people that invent rhetoric. You know, the first sort of first good use of bullshit in a technical sense, in Harry Frankfurt's sense. You know, the liar tries to manipulate you because you care about the truth, and they try to convince you that something is truth. But the bullshit artist does something different. They try to get you unconcerned about whether or not something is the truth and just caught up in how catchy it is. All advertising works this way. You watch the alcohol commercial, right? Here's a bar and somebody gets a drink and there's gorgeous people and happy music and everybody's well dressed and smiling. Go into a bar, right? Yeah. That's not, and we all know it's false.
It's
right?
not the same in there.
No, but it's catchy. It triggers all kind, sexuality and vibrancy and sociality,
possibility,
and all that, and so it gets very catchy, and you don't care about the truth, and you get caught up in how catchy it is, and this is what the sophists discovered. They learned how to make things catchy, so they would really go deep into people and change them. Now they did it in a manipulative fashion. Now Socrates said, well, they're the opposite. They're giving me lots of relevance, transformative power, but no truth. And what he did is basically said, I want the two together. I want transformative truths. I want to go on a quest to find those truths that catch.
Wow, he was like a gangster, huh?
Yeah, he was. Well, he's a hero. He's a hero to me.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that's what I'm saying. It sounds like he was like a John Wayne of like, we're going to do this a new way, and this is the way that it needs to be. It just sounds like he was a real pioneer, kind of.
He is. I mean, it's called the Socratic Revolution. I mean, he's an astonishing individual. He was extremely brave. He had a reputation, like he was a soldier. And at several times in battle, he showed tremendous courage and presence of mind when everybody else is panicking.
Wow.
He could stand in one place, like in profound meditation for like 24, 48 hours. His life was threatened several times, and he never sort of capitulated to the forces.
He was brave.
He's brave. He's
creative, it sounds like.
Yeah, and he invented this way of interacting with people. He would ask them questions, and he would try and draw out, he compared himself to a midwife. I help people to give birth to themselves.
Wow.
And so he wasn't like, he would often show people that their claims to being wise or to knowledge didn't work. He would get them into this state. People said it was like being stung by a stingray or a spell cast on you. You'd get into this state, and he did this for a particular reason. So the Athenians had oracles, like the oracle at Delphi. Have you ever been to Delphi?
I know. I don't think so. I have. Is it? Nope. I haven't.
It puts the zap on you, man.
Really?
Yeah. Like you stand in front of the omphalos, the navel of the world, and this chasm drops away, and then this in front of you, and this mountain goes up, and and this woman, she would sit in a cave, and there's some speculation that she was getting intoxicated, and then she would speak. Answer people's questions. Now, when you're an oracle, right? If you want to stay in business as an oracle, you don't give really clear answers to people, right?
Right, because you need them to come back.
You need them to come back. So, should I marry Cassandra? Well, sometimes the squirrels don't gather nuts.
Yeah.
Okay. So a friend of Socrates went to the oracle. And I have no basis for saying that, but I always picture them sort of smirking and nudging each other. We're going to ask you this really cool question, right?
Yeah. You ready?
And so she goes up, and they go up, and they say to her, "Is there anyone wiser than Socrates?" And they're expecting this really cryptic, and she said, "No human being is wiser than Socrates." Straight answer.
Wow.
So he went back, and they tell Socrates. Now, you and I, we're honest. If they said, if we got that message from the gods, we go, yeah, I always knew it, right? I always knew. He does this other thing, and this tells you how Socratic he is. He says, well, the gods can't lie. But by the way, that's one way, and he's revolutionary. The gods aren't like the ancient gods, just superheroes. The gods are like moral exemplars for Socrates, so they can't lie. But he also says, but I know I'm not wise. How can those both be true? And he turns it into this quest. So he goes and he keeps asking people, right? So somebody claims to know something, or they know what a particular virtue is. They know what courage is, and he'll ask like two generals, and he'll constantly question them, and he's trying to draw it out, and he's trying to find out. And what typically happens is this what's called a dialogue. Plato wrote. It ends with no clear answer, no clear definition. But Socrates isn't a skeptic. So
So he doesn't get a clear answer, but that's okay. The goal is the goal to get a clear answer, or just to create conversation?
Beyond that, see, the goal is to get people to take up his quest. See, so if you look at, so he's talking to these two generals, and the two generals about courage, one of them does I just know. He just speaks from his intuition, and Socrates destroys that, throws him with the contradictions of the problem. The other quotes, so the first person speaks from like a first person perspective. Well, I just know. And Socrates destroys that. And the other person speaks from this third person. Well, here's a technical definition I got from the sophists, and blah, 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 blah.
Nerd.
And Socrates destroys that. And then and Socrates can't offer definition. And you think, what was this all for? But you have to, see, in a dialogue, you have to pay attention to the drama, not just the argument. Because what the two generals say is, we want our sons to come and spend time with you and live with you, Socrates, because our sons are going to get courage from you. Socrates can't explain, he can't define courage. Courage, if you think you can put courage into a definition, you don't get it. Right? You have to get into this, not the first person, or the third person, this second person, you, us together, right? You catch it, but it's a caught truth. Remember we were talking about it? And what happens is Socrates exemplifies what it is, and he lives it in conversation with people, so that they start to catch that orientation and catch his quest.
Wow. And was that a new thing at the time, to have that sort of energy, to have that, like, for people to really start to question things like that? So
as far as we can tell, and that's why it's called the Socratic Revolution, and there doesn't seem to be any of the ancient sources that contradict this. Socrates invents, discovers. We don't have to. There's a Latin word that's much better. Inventio. It means to discover or invent. Right. He inventios, right, this way of helping people to give birth to themselves.
Wow.
So the people I work with, we've tried to reverse engineer this practice. We call it dialectic into dialogos, and we have workshops that sort of get people to take this up, and so. What we do is we'll have them do these practices around a virtue like courage, or honesty, authenticity, and what happens is they we tell them this, but they also realize it, right? The point isn't to be right about this. The point is to come into right relationship with the virtue, and that's what happens when they do these practices. People come out and go, "I'm kind of experiencing something like awe and a love." I thought I always knew what honesty was, like the technical definition or the intuition, like the two generals. But now I don't, but I'm like Socrates. So you get this right orientation. And now we go back to Socrates because he finally resolved that paradox that he had from the gods. He realized that he was wise in that he knew when he did not know something. But not in the shallow sense that I don't know about Albanian tin production or something like that.
Right.
But in this sense we're talking about, which is like, I really don't know what honesty is. I have a love for it, and I want to be in the right relationship. I want to open myself up. I want to learn more about it.